All right, grown-ups, it's just our time. I love the babies, but to help you, I gotta speak my mind. This segment's here to help you grow with book reviews, lessons, and things you'll be glad to know. If your little one's restless or looking to play, send them to my other playlist. The read-alouds there will brighten their day.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the Teacher Lady Speaks. I'm Miss Erica, the Teacher Lady, your fairy godparent when it comes to sharing joyful stories and growing young minds. Here on the Teacher Lady Speaks, we use my experience teaching tiny humans to help enhance your experience raising or teaching tiny humans. This is done through resources, insight, and honest reflection from a well-meaning educator. Hey, that's me, that understands just how hard love work can be. This playlist exists to help answer the question, how do I get my child to get it, whatever it may be? Okay, that's where I come in. Now, this week's topic is on civic duty and community. How do you help your child to understand what it means to be part of community and the responsibility that comes with it? So we started this week on Monday with 2 read-alouds. We had The Last Stand and The Rhino Who Swallowed a Storm. Both focused on the value and the importance of community and how community showed up in the most meaningful ways. Then we went deeper with 2 behind the book episodes, one for each book, where we went beyond the pages to get to the heart of the story. There, I also teach you how to use the book as a resource to have a more robust conversation with your child. And now, we're wrapping it all up in this episode of the Teacher Lady Speaks, a crash course in how to get your child to understand, participate in, and value community. You ready? Let's grow. Describing the topic for a young child. So if I were explaining civic duty and community to a young child, I would essentially say, what are all the things you are part of? And they might say a swim club. They might say church. They might say school. They might say your parenting group and how they get to play with the kids while you talk to the grown-ups. All of those spaces are community. When you go to the grocery store, that is part of a community. When you go to your school, that is part of a community. At home, we have neighbors, and all of these neighbors are also part of community. So all of these places are what we call community, which is essentially just a group of people who share that space or who share that thing. But within that, there are responsibilities, and those responsibilities are called civic duties. So, for example, at the grocery store, you have people who bag the groceries. That's part of their civic duty. Or maybe you have farmers who help get the food there. That's part of their civic duty. Or maybe somebody who makes sure that it's clean so that the food you're eating is safe. That's part of their civic duties, okay? Sometimes your civic duty is your job, the job you actually get paid for. And sometimes it's just making sure that the community that you are part of is okay. You're not always given a financial payment, but you're definitely going to receive the rewards and the benefits. And so when speaking to children, you break down a place that's familiar with them. If it's a church, the church is the community. And then the pastor that gets up and says the message, that's a civic duty. Or the person that sweeps is part of it. That's a civic duty to keep the church going. Or the person that is in charge of the bake sale so that there is enough money to support the church. That is how they contributed, and it became part of their civic duty. So every community has civic duties that fall within it. And as a member of that community, you're also responsible for helping out. And so give an example of a place they are familiar with and the jobs or the civic duties that are required to uphold that community. And that is how you explain it to a child. So in the classroom, your teacher's job is to teach and your job is to learn. You might also need to help a friend when they don't understand a word. And that's a civic duty. You might also keep the pencils sharpened because otherwise people won't be able to write, and that's a civic duty. You might call on a teacher when another student is upset. That's a civic duty. Wherever your community is lies the responsibilities that keep that community going, and you guessed it, that is part of your civic duty. At home, this might be taking out the trash or making sure that the dogs are fed. Those would be your civic duties. And as you grow older, you will have bigger civic duties, like voting to make sure your community receives everything that it needs to stay strong, and so on and so forth. So, bringing in your child's life into practical examples will help them to understand the different elements or aspects of community and the roles that are required to keep that community going. Too often, children just show up and they're like, yep, I'm here to receive. And they don't understand that a lot of effort and people went into making the thing happen. The example that I give when I'm teaching students is they'll come into school and I'll say at the end of school, take a look at what the hallways look like because they always nasty. They get sticky, they be slippery. It's always something going on with the hallway floors in elementary school. So I'll tell my class, take a look at the school when you leave out. Take a look at the floors, just pay attention. And then the next morning, I'll say, do the floors look the same way that they did yesterday? And usually, unanimously, they say, no, they look a lot cleaner. Why? Because somebody came in last night and made sure that these floors were clean. They didn't just magically happen. Somebody did it. Somebody made it part of their personal responsibility and their civic duty to make sure that you had a safe and clean school to attend this morning. Community and civic duty go hand to hand because without people stepping up and taking responsibility to fulfill their civic duties, community crumbles. What are your children learning in school in regards to being part of community and their civic duty? As always, I like to compare two states and their curriculum so that you have a better idea of what your child may or may not learn in the classroom. This includes both Texas and California. All right, let's take a look. So in California, for grades K through 2, state social studies standards do include being a good citizen, following rules, and working together. In grades 3 through 5, they begin to touch on local government, community service, and civic responsibility. These lessons are embedded within history, social science, and how deeply they're taught depends entirely on the teacher. So there is no mandated social emotional learning element or cultural element when it comes to what your child will learn in California in regards to this topic. There are bits of the curriculum that kind of hit around it, but nothing super straightforward. And as you know, at this point, whether or not your child actually learns how to be part of community or their civic duties heavily depends not on whether or not it's mandated curriculum, but if the educator is actually teaching it in a way in which your child can understand. So yes, there is a bit that is recommended for grades 3 through 5 and K through 2 and 3 through 5 that revolve around responsibility and overall being a good listener, but there's nothing concrete and intentional. And more importantly, there is nothing that ensures that your child will pick up on it. Now, in Texas, they have the TEX, which stands for Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. This requires explicit teaching of citizenship and responsibility beginning in kindergarten. The topics include helping others, respecting authorities, and mock elections. And of course, by upper elementary, students get introduced to things on the more political side, like government or judicial systems or different branches of government, which according to their state curriculum or mandated curriculum does fall under the confines of like civic duty and responsibility. However, it doesn't hone in a way that we're discussing for this week. And it also does not touch on any cultural elements or specifically social emotional learning. So, for the first time in a couple of episodes, both Texas and California do each have a mandated requirement when it comes to something around responsibility, but neither state touches on the cultural relevance, which is super important. If you want a child to understand something, they have to feel connected to it. You're going to have to compare it to something they already know. So a child who's learning about civic duties and the example given is church and they don't go to church, it's not going to connect in the same way as a child understanding civic duties and your example is cleaning a beach and you're part of a beach cleaning crew. So making sure that the examples and the information is culturally relevant and relevant to that child are important and often get missed when it comes to school in general. Y'all know I always say, if it's something you want your baby to know, you're going to have to take on the responsibility of ensuring that they actually learn it, whatever it may be. But of course, you are no longer alone. I am holding your hand and we are walking this journey together, okay? Let's keep going. Resources that will help your child to better understand their role in terms of community and civic duty. Of course, we kick this week off with our 2 read-alouds, The Last Stand and A Rhino That Swallowed a Storm. That is a great resource. That is a great place to start. If you don't have the books, utilize my channel and have those conversations. I also want to introduce you to a couple of other resources that might be able to help. First up is iCivics.org. iCivics is a free interactive site with games like Do I Have a Right and Cast Your Vote that help children understand rights and responsibilities. It allows them to play while learning and overall gives them a feel of what they might be responsible for, specifically when they get older. Next is Generation Citizen, a classic. Generation Citizen is a project-based learning platform that walks students through real-life community change efforts like planting gardens or organizing shelter donations. It is great if you want to get your child involved in the action of community, okay? If you want to give them a civic duty. You like, my child ain't doing nothing right now. I don't know where to get them started. That is the website for you because they are going to give you practical ways to help get your child involved. Now, Youth Service America is definitely unique. It is a platform that connects children and teens to national volunteer opportunities. So they do everything from offering micro grants. So like you can put in a proposal for something and then you might be able to get that proposal funded. They highlight youth that are involved in activism and helping out their community. And it's perfect for kids who are inspired by seeing others take action, okay? Best practices at home. So the best way to get your child to understand their civic duties are to incorporate it into their day to day. So maybe it is sending your child to a beach cleanup day, or maybe there is something in the home that you could really use their help with that will also help them to understand that they are contributing to the community in which they are utilizing those resources. As we remove, we have to replenish. Otherwise, there will be nothing there. So one of the best practices is to find something for them to do that is already part of their day-to-day. If it's at home and they're not doing anything, start with the trash. Let them understand that if somebody don't take out the trash is going to overflow. It's going to get stinky. And for the longest, it's been me. And I think you're able to do it now. Or put the power and the decision in their hands. What about our home dynamic do you think that you can contribute to? And take that approach. Another best practice is to really explore what happens when community don't community. What happens if we all decide we're too tired to go in and help elders or help children? What happens if the grocery store people don't show up or the farmers no longer plant that seed? I truly believe with children, they have to be taught to understand that their life is so abundant because other people have done things on purpose to help them. Right? There's something called the invisible job, specifically when it comes to stay-at-home grandparents or moms or dads, because so much gets done, but if you don't actually see them doing it, then it kind of feels like it's effortless. It kind of feels like it's easy, and it's not. Actually, dishes were dirty, food needed to be cooked. I had to send an email to the school. So-and-so needed a change of clothes. There's a lot of things that go into being that stay-at-home caregiver or provider that most people don't see because they're not at home all day with you. And we call those oftentimes invisible jobs or jobs that don't receive the credit that they deserve. And oftentimes they are embedded within community. And so helping your child to understand that dinner didn't just show up on the table. Somebody brought it from the farm. We then had to go to work to earn enough money to get it from the store, cook it, clean it, prepare it. Then after we eat, that mess has to be cleaned up and so many other micro jobs in between that have to be done in order for you to eat. The same is true for you getting dressed in the morning. You didn't just wake up to a closet full of clothes. I figured out what size you were. I went shopping to get those clothes. Before we even get there, somebody sold those clothes and designed those clothes. Somebody took them off the truck to get them into the store. You can always backtrack a million small steps to whatever it is you're doing. Right now, I'm recording this show. And in order for me to be able to record the show, somebody designed a microphone and somebody else decided that a lighting setup would look best in this specific way. And somebody designed the furniture. So there, again, are so many things that we don't really think about until we break them down. And the best practice for getting your child embedded in community and in their civic duties is for them to understand that there are a million steps that are skipped for them to just be able to receive, or that they are skipping the million steps, that they don't understand how many things went into the life that they currently have. My next best practice is to have them name the communities that they're part of, even if it's digital. So if they're playing Fortnite and that's what they do every Saturday night and they get on with a bunch of strangers, that's now a community. It's your video game community. If they are in chess club at after school program, that is a community. Church is a community. Allow them to name their communities. And then from there, you already know what's coming. Ask them, well, what is your civic duty? What are you doing to make sure that you're able to be part of this community? With Fortnite, they might have to do all their homework before they can get on the game. And so the responsibility of doing this so that I can enjoy that matters, because otherwise their friends will miss them. So truly bring it in and bring it home. Do not allow your child to just be a receiver. Allow them to understand that in order for them to grow and be part of this community and this village, they too have to contribute. And my last best practice is to point out the ways that they are already showing up and being responsible for those around them. When they decided to hold the door open so that Miss Berta could walk through the door with her groceries. Clearly I'm hungry because all my little snacky snack examples. Or when they show up at school a little bit early so that they can help their teacher set up that classroom. What is it that they're already doing really well? Every week when we're teaching about something, a lot of times children learn through positive reinforcements. What are the things that I'm so proud of you for doing, for seeing, for learning, for growing? The more that you can bring that home, the more they will be encouraged and want to do and contribute. Common questions. One common question that I get is, my child too young to have a civic duty or responsibility? And to that, I would say, unless they're like a fresh baby, no. But as soon as they start to understand the world around them, they should be understanding how to contribute. If you have a 2-year-old, don't make them go out and save the whales, but they can absolutely pick up their toys and put them back in a box. Learn to simplify things for that age group or for that child's cognitive ability. But no, it's never too young. Really find ways to incorporate them in what needs to be done so that as they grow older, they understand that responsibility. The other common question I get is, should we be doing intentional community service? Like, should we join a beach cleanup crew or volunteer at an elderly home? And to that, I say it really depends on your family dynamic. If your family is already part of multiple communities and showing up, and that's what you're able to do, that is fine. In no way am I saying you have to add a million things to your plate. Now, if you want to, or if you have the ability to show up and help other communities, absolutely go for it. But it isn't necessary in order for your child to learn and understand the importance of contributing. The last common question I get is, well, my baby won't do nothing. They don't want to do nothing. They don't want to contribute to nothing. And to which my response, which is now getting into the parenting side of the teacher lady, is, well, let them go without, because I don't want to do it either. But it gets done. Right? I don't feel like cooking, but if I don't cook, we don't eat. See, I told y'all I must be hungry. I don't feel like, cleaning, but if I don't clean, it gets piled up and now we can't have company. And so really allow them to feel the consequences of their decisions. Give children back their decisions. I mean, give people in general back their decisions, but specifically children, allow them to feel the consequences of their decisions, not in a way of punishment, but in a way of education. So, in order for them to be able to go to Christy's birthday party, you got to clean up your room. It's now time to leave and your room is not clean. Well, that's a natural consequence, which means we're not going to Christy's birthday party. Now, you're part of Christy's community and her friendship circle. How do you think Christy is going to feel that you weren't able to show up? But you didn't handle your responsibility. You didn't handle the things that you needed to do. And so now you weren't able to show up in a way that you wanted to. Connect things back to them and allow them to feel the consequences of their actions early. Otherwise, that's how we get adults that feel like everything is being done to them and they have no part in the decisions that they've made. They've never had to. It really reminds me of The Little Red Hen, which is a phenomenal story. But The Little Red Hen, and I'm going to paraphrase and probably mess it up, essentially, there's a hen who is making bread and the animal is like, hey, who gonna help me knead the dough? And everybody is like, nah. Well, who gonna go to the grocery store and get the milk? Nope. Well, who gonna bake it and make sure it don't burn? Well, who gonna help me clean up? Not I, right? But then who's gonna help me eat? And all of a sudden the table is full. That story clearly illustrates what happens when you do not allow children to feel their choices. If you don't want to help because you don't feel like it and that's become consistent, well, you're going to start to feel what it feels like to not feel like it and still not do. Because you don't have to feel like doing anything, but you need to do it anyway because it is for the betterment of yourself and your community. You hear me what I say? Okay. When to seek help. When to seek help. If it has got to a point to where your child refuses to participate in anything, they won't clean their room to be able to go out, they won't do their homework to be able to get on the game, they won't help a neighbor who has asked for it, they just shut down and will not do anything, there might be something else there. Not everything you personally can solve as their caregiver and as their support system. Sometimes there's telltale signs that say, hey, there's something else going on. And if your child is at that point in their life to where socially they're completely disconnected and you can't get them to do anything, even if they see the pain of it, so they see their sister struggling and they won't go help their sister, or they see you needing help with groceries and they won't lift a hand. If it has gotten that bad, it is beyond you and it is time to get help. That help might be by way of a guidance counselor at school. They tend to have resources. It might be by way of their pediatrician, their doctor, to say, hey, this is what's going on. What do you recommend? But if you notice, and this is for any week, if you notice that everything you're trying is not working, baby, the next thing you need to try is to go get somebody else to try because it is now beyond your control. Other resources for a child that just refuses to participate in anything include PTA. Sometimes when you connect with other parents or other caregivers, they can tell you about a club that has helped their child or a resource. The library always has the tea. They're going to tell you everything. They're going to tell you who's meeting, where they're meeting, what resources are available, other books, whether it's parenting books or caregiver books or books for the child. That's always an awesome resource. And lastly, and you will hear me say this consistently, regardless of your current religious beliefs, local churches historically have been the hub for providing resources and support for issues like this one when it comes to families, okay? So that is another place you want to go look. The library and the church are awesome, regardless of whether or not you believe in books or the Lord. Go there to find information and resources that could really help to lift your child out of this space of not wanting to participate with the people around them or the places around them, because that is so important when it comes to civic duty. Oftentimes we do things when we don't want to do them or don't feel like it because we understand the responsibility we hold. So if your child is not participating and they don't understand the responsibility that they hold, and you've tried everything and you're not making any progress, get outside help. Thank you so much for learning with me this week and for being part of this growing book loving community. I just appreciate y'all so much, and I'm so excited at where we're headed. Don't forget to sign up for my newsletter where you will receive other resources, updates, and bonuses. And lastly, as a book enthusiast and educator, I want to let you know that I am also an author and illustrator of multiple diverse books. And those books have encouraged the Pay It Forward program. The Pay It Forward program is the most straightforward book initiative. You donate what you can. We purchase books with intentionality and we get them to the community that needs them, all by way of the Empathy Library. For more information, be sure to check out our website. But until next time, remember to enjoy the moment or go be a joy in the moment. Thank you for learning with me. Bye.